Good afternoon from Yami B TV. Wishing you all well today. Sending loads of love. Thank you for all the kind messages of support. Very uplifting and motivating. Following on from yesterday, sadly, I need to tell you about what it feels like when you lose loved ones whilst in an institutional setting of any kind, but my experience of it becomes a prison setting. Now, we know what happens. It's quite possible that when you visit prison, it might be the last time that you ever see anybody again that you was close to. Nothing's promised to anyone in this life. This is what I've worked out over the years. But my time came in 2004, 2005. I was in Category A prison in Whitemoor. I think Porky was to the left, Courtney was to the right, Quincy was across the road, and I got a couple of days warning that my father didn't have much longer to live. There was a slight build-up, but by the time I thought about it in the night for a couple of days, the feeling, it never sunk in properly. I wasn't in touch with my family during this time, not really close at all to anyone. I wasn't close to my father anyway. In later life now, I take that back a little bit, to be honest, but I didn't get into the feeling, to the suffering that he was feeling. And yeah, basically. And 2 days, and then within that 2 days, there was a knock on the door. The procedure is that if you're not getting the notification from your families by way of phone calls or visits, and you're not keeping updated with things, the chances are that you might have a member of your family outside that might tell the chaplain, ring up the prison, tell the chaplain to inform you that somebody close to you has died. That's the procedure, whether it's a chaplain or an imam, that's what they have to do. The other significant factor is when they come onto the wings to come and break this news, they always have to go and tell a senior member of staff or an officer that maybe they might be delivering some bad news for the safety precautions of all concerned, that for suicide reasons, for having a funny turn, that kind of stuff. But anyway, that was another thing as well, because to let somebody else know as well, you want some of these things kept personal as well, but it's not like that in there. Once somebody dies and they're close to you, it's like the whole landing or the whole prison gets to find out, and then you get them messages of, thanks, are you all right, Sam? And that, yeah, all well and good. But for me, I didn't really feel that. I didn't want nobody to know what I was exactly feeling. And if anything, the more people talked about it, the more that it upset me, because I just wished that I would have been there to see the last moments and that kind of stuff. But yeah, the door opened. As soon as it opened, I said to the chaplain, I know what you're going to say. And he said, sorry to bring you this news. Sorry to bring this news. I said, don't worry about it. I was expecting it, blah, 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 blah. Porky give me a hug and whatnot, came in from next door. And then I asked about the funeral. And they said to me, look, we've been having talks with certain people, and you won't be allowed to go. I said, you what? I said, you let the Reggie Cray and Ronnie go to their mum's funeral. What's different about me? Oh, we can't tell you at this minute, and that. And I went basically bonkers. I thought, no way. I went on the phone, started making threats everywhere, sadly. They noted that down as well. Some of the stuff you can say when you're hurt. Especially like that, because I've never been to a funeral. I think I've been to one in my whole life, and that was about 10 years ago while I was in a hostel somewhere, where someone invited me down, and I was thankful for that day to see it firsthand. But to know that I wouldn't be going to the funeral, I'd been away a few years already. It would have been nice to see, certain members of your family and friends who were going to be there at that time. But no, I left it. I made a lot of noise. I made a couple of threats, like I told you. And 3 days later, before the funeral, actually, because the funeral was about 6 days away or something, they opened my door in the morning, on a Sunday morning. I'll never forget it. And they opened the door and they said, look, we're going to take you in a Cat A van to the Chapel of Rest, which was over Muswell Hill, Southgate. I was kind of a bit more happy, I suppose, but I didn't know what a chapel arrest meant at that time, having never been to one of those either. And 2 male officers, 1 female officer, and handcuffed I was, going into the chapel of rest room. First dead person that I ever saw. and I felt quite sad for my father, to be honest. And I didn't stay longer than 60 seconds. And to be brutally honest, I never felt worthy of being in there because I didn't feel much else for him. You know, when I lost my cousin Rosamond years later, I'll tell you about that one in a minute. It was a different kind of feeling to the one that I had with my father. In fact, it made it even worse for me is the female member of staff was crying. And I was thinking, well, why is she crying and not me? Do you see what I mean? But now I know normal humans, normal humans will cry over stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? But I didn't. And that made me feel bad about myself as well. But I said, no, I want to go. Had a cigarette outside. I suppose they gave me a fag. Got in the Cat A van, straight up the motorway and back to Whitemore. And no, didn't. And the funeral was a few days later. And I didn't get to share that experience, you know, to see the grieving from people close to you, that kind of stuff. The second time when it happened to me was in Wandsworth. My favourite sister cousin, Rosamond, I spoke about her the other day, sadly died of cancer. And that news was brought to me as well. And I remember speaking to her 2 days before, and she told me that everything was going to be all right. You know, the feelings from that, but there was something in her voice that told me, Sam, you know, I said, promise me you're not going to go nowhere yet, because I was hearing stories, again, not in touch with the outside world, so I was getting limited information, and very, very sad. And there was a guy from Camden called Eddie O'Connor, another good friend of mine. He came into my cell and sat with me because I didn't want to feel that thing being told. You know, the thing about being told by strangers, you know, as well as that, you know, to be in that situation in prison, you know, for somebody else having to come and break the news to you while you're not there. A lot of men over the years, I realise, and ladies I hear now as well, the biggest fear factor they've got, short sentence, long sentence, is the fear that people are not going to be around when they get out. You know, feel it even more for the real long termers that are never getting out, because they understand that the chances of going to see or their mum, their father, auntie, cousin, son, daughter ever again is really hugely unlikely. So think how that's going to feel for them as well. But no, it's not a nice place to be in. And you know, the messages today, you know, if you're thinking or you're going to go there, you need to take on board what you could face in there, because when Rosamond died, I was on my hands and knees, and it was a big scream as well. Such a hurtful experience for me. But yeah, that's the message for this one. I'm coming back up in a minute to do when hardened criminals try to get are after you, and then they're coming for your family. We know that it's wrong. The old school, we wasn't like that. Don't bring the shit to the doorstep. For whatever we was in that life, you and I both know, keep it that way. You know, no need to make other people suffer over it. There's a lot of that outside now coming. But I'm going to be back up in a minute and sending you loads of love. Really happy. Part 2 coming very, very soon. Sending loads of love. Bye-bye.